Okay, good morning, folks. Saturday morning edition. Should have a big painting weekend ahead of us. That'll make up for next weekend. Well, there won't be any. It's always extremes, isn't it? And I'm being consumed by different paint colors. So let's just do kind of a short recap where we're at on our Byzantine project, and then we'll get started. Byzantine project that has lots of parts. Lots of parts. 15, 16 elements, something like that. Before we move on to something else. I'm pretty certain what the something else will be. Well, at least right now I am, and then I'll change my mind. That's why I don't want to announce things and then, have to explain why things changed. I'm not a big fan of explaining myself. The Germans did lose the war, after all. It's time to flip this thing over to the other side. All right. What extremes? We have a big painting weekend this weekend, and then next weekend there won't be any. That's the extremes that we're talking about. And good morning to you, or good evening to you. I think you're probably still running on the evening. Welcome back. You get the first one to be one of the first people that checks something out. So you already know this part because you've been following along, but we've got one unit of spearmen, another unit of spearmen. We've got the Saloy, which honestly, surprised this army can only have one, but hey, I'm not Phil Barker, and a light horse. We got 4 elements in, and the 5th element is Uncle Artie. We're going to pull it out here so you can see comparison-wise with the other troops. Just disregard these little ropes because they seem to be incorrigible at the time. But several people had, I had posted pictures of the finished artillery piece built, and lots of people had opinions on what they wanted it to look like. And this in particular, I saw this and I thought, this is a really cool artillery piece. But then I look at this and this just looks stupid. There's just some things that I don't care if they're realistic or not. They're not realistic to me. And this drawing with the animal skins, and I'm actually okay with it being animal skins. I'm not okay with it being every single odd animal skin you can get. This is a spotted cow and a brown one, and then what is this, impalas and shit like that. It's it's just really inconsistent. It would take forever to paint, and I think that no matter how good a job you would do, it would end up looking terrible. Because I'm not an artist. I used to draw, and this is not a bad artist, okay? But it still looks like crap to me. But that's my personal opinion. You may actually like it. I think it looks terrible. So I like the design. I just don't like what they did with this. And I'm thinking, this is the freaking Byzantine Empire, right? The Byzantine Empire can afford more than just using the foreskin of cows to put this stuff on there. So I'm like, I don't mind with it being leather covered to protect them. I just don't want it to look like that. And the Byzantines are top dog, or one of the top dogs, on cool looking flags and icons and stuff like that. So this is a perfect idea, perfect time to do something like this. And that's not the final color. We're going to lighten it up some so it does look like leather. But we got a little Byzantine cross on there and a Kiro on top of it. And that's kind of what I wanted to do all along, because you can't ever have enough flags or iconography or stuff like that. And I didn't want to use an artillery piece that could be used for different nations. I wanted one specifically for them. So that's what we're going to finish up this morning is I got off work early a little yesterday, and I kind of kicked ass on this thing by myself because I didn't know how it was going to turn out, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. And yeah, this will go with the look of the army. You got all your guys lined up like this, and yeah. Persian war towers real fun for painting. Yeah, you could do a lot of stuff with that too. Yeah, it looks so much better than the hides. I know it turned out. Yeah, it's not my first rodeo. And I'm not finished yet. So, but the heavy lifting is done. It actually wasn't difficult to. Is it perfectly square? No, it's hand painted. You know, but it's perfectly square enough. And we're not done with it yet. We need to clean it up some. So that's what we're doing. So, yeah, I didn't paint a Byzantine army not to paint crosses, okay? That's the freaking point. And they got really cool stuff. They got really, really cool things. And I already know what I'm doing next after this guy. We should have time to do that. I don't know if we'll finish one, but we're going to jump into some Normans. I have never painted a Norman before. Well, I've never painted a Norman that is actually a Norman, because some of my feudal Spanish are Norman figures. But they're Spanished out. All right. Good morning to you, John and Ian. Welcome back. All right, I should have a brush that is quite useful out here. And this is without, all right, I gotta show you this because this might be something you guys might find helpful. This is not a just, hey, show off Tony's stuff and make him feel good about himself. It's a, hey, I found some cool things and maybe you guys can benefit from this. This is cardboard, right? This leather material is the same material as this. Look how this turned out with some mild light brushing. Some mild dry brushing. This is just a couple colors of brown, and it almost looks like, I don't know if it comes out in the video, it almost looks like leather. So if you guys need to make something out of leather, this material is really cool. And it's like free. It's stuff people throw away. So there's nothing to it. I primed it black, and I started very lightly putting some paint on it. I honestly was scared that it would warp. It is reinforced on all the sides, so if it warped, it would probably be in the middle, but no warpage at all. So we're going to lighten that up a little bit just so we have some contrast color from the color of the wood in the artillery. I want to differentiate the tube from each other. So I want the color of the wood on the artillery piece to be different in tone than the leather. And I may leave the leather how it is and just lighten up the wood on the artillery piece some more, which it can use that a little bit. So it's going to take some tinkering, but I figured I'd show you how that material turned out. I don't know that I've ever painted it and used it for anything, but I love this cardboard stuff. It's free. I got people at work collecting it for me. I mean, not that we go through that much, but, you know, we don't recycle this. Well, you do recycle it, you give it to me. Balsa wood, good for painting over as well. I'm not a fan of balsa wood. I mean, balsa wood, when I first discovered it in the 80s as a kid, I thought it was the coolest stuff. It is just so flimsy. It's crazy how little it weighs. It's really the styrofoam of wood. But I've used it. I prefer the basswood, only because it's just, I just find it's too delicate. All right, let's bring this Byzantine cross up some. I didn't finish painting it all the way. Let's make sure we don't have a burr here. I can't paint anything in midair, and I don't necessarily have a bad pulse. It just becomes really stressful. So I always like whatever I'm doing to be braced up against something. When I was looking to get my painting table, it's not expensive. It's just an IKEA table, but it needed to be definitely, you can't move it. Or it can't move on you would probably be more accurate. You do need to move it or would never get in the room in the first place. Think about that. The other thing about this is as strange as what I'm holding weighs nothing. And I got to be really careful. I don't crush it with my grip. That's the one thing about people handling your stuff is you want to make sure that they're not ham-fisted and grab your things and break them. And we do need to do some thin black and clean that up a tiny little bit. And the nice thing is if you drop it, it doesn't weigh anything, so it can't really crush itself. Here we are on the channel that doesn't edit anything. So if I break something, you'll see it. If I break wind, you'll hear it, I guess. Fortunate that hasn't happened yet. Oh boy, lots of stuff. I believe you paint a layer of white glue on all parts of the cardboard, it stops warping. I really hate white glue. It just takes forever to dry. If I was making something like that, I would check out actual leather. I'm sure you can get a small square at a hobby shop. And one of those white folding 6-foot long tables you can get at Costco or Walmart. I love it because it won't move. Lots of space to lay stuff on. Yeah, this isn't, I don't know what the hell this is. This is like a drafting table. And it's got 4 legs and they're not adjustable. Well, they're not adjustable what position they're in, but you can screw them in and screw them down. And it's screwed up so it's as tall as it could possibly be. And my chair is as low as it could possibly be. So I can paint as erect as possible, whatever that means. So I don't mess up my neck. Not that I have neck issues, but you know, we're doing this for a long time. We do need to be comfortable. All right, now before I go any further, I think I'm going to go ahead and try to put a little thin bit of black on there to get it to. It doesn't need it, but let's get a really. I'm sure this is a liner. I love quote unquote liner brushes. As opposed to rounds. So I was doing something the other day. Maybe it wasn't the other day. It is in the past, so technically it is the other day. And I was noticing, I must have doing a shield emblem or something. And I used to draw. Other people used to think I draw pretty well. Compared to what's out there on the internet, I'm a moron when it comes to drawing. I mean, there's some wizards out there. But as a kid, I used to draw. And I was doing something, it must have been a shield emblem or something like that. And I came to realize that I would rather do this, like what I'm doing right now with thin black, and paint things on than actually draw them. I have more control with the paint. And I just thought about like why the hell that is. Well, first of all, you get to pick the thickness of your line all the time. Like I specifically do not want a thick line. And when you're drawing, you're stuck with whatever implement that thing is geared for. So if you pick up a pencil, and I'm real particular about things that I write with, even like in real life. I like using a pen that I like, not one that's too slippery or sometimes you can be writing and things don't look right because the pen you're using is too thin. So I'm a fan of writing with those Sharpies, these things. Because the point is really good until somebody borrows it and it freaking jams and flattens the freaking thing. So they have kind of a short lifespan because of that. But I do like those. Those have a nice thing on there. But when I did this square, I kind of lightly sketched it with a pencil. Just so I could kind of get the proportions right. And it isn't perfect. But then this is painted on leather or whatever. So, you know, what's to say there isn't a little bubble in the leather in it? It looks like this, so. Okay, I think that's probably enough. That cleaned it up a little bit. And we'll probably come in with a leather color and come in from the other end and clean it up a little bit more. Yeah, I just threw that Kiro on there. I'm like, yeah, it needs something up there. Let's put that up there as well. Why not? You're going to add a crew for it? No, I'm not going to add a crew for it. Why am I not going to add a crew for it? And it's certainly not because I'm opposed to painting the figures. They would look really cool. I would have to have them the right size, in the right position, and they don't make them. And I'm, you know, it's, you know, they have the same crew that my camps have, which is, you know, they're on break. That's the only problem with my table. It sits slower than my chair. Good thing I have a painting computer chair so it's comfortable. Yeah. Yeah, you gotta have a tall. Really, if this could be like maybe an inch taller, it'd be even better. But right off the top of my head, my table's about 3 feet high. And the chair, the part where you sit's about 18 inches. So I have about 18 inches of straightness where I don't have to hunch over. I mean, you're gonna be hunched over a little bit, even with the, you know, with your neck and stuff, but at least it's something. All right, so the leather color we used, I believe, is this color right here. So let's use this brush. Let's take some of this water off of it. I can't imagine doing this shit with enamels. I guess I still would. Like if acrylic paints had never been invented, would I still be painting with enamels? Probably. Because the enamels now are, you know, they're still okay. They're just a pain to clean. Remember those old Pactra paints? You'd think Tester's paints were freaking awesome. Pactra paints, they were god awful. $0.49 each or whatever the hell they were. Talk about paints that needed to be thinned. But I'll tell you what, when I was a kid, what was worse than those cheap paints was the brushes. Those damn nylon brushes that didn't come to a point. And then you buy this model and it would look like all nice, like you'd have all these like aspirations. See, look how much better that cleaned up. Do the same thing around here. This isn't quick, but it's relaxing, almost meditatively so. Yeah. So traveling for next weekend, not for this one. We don't want to go anywhere where everybody is out on the road, being a nuisance to society. Well, that made a huge, huge difference. Huge difference. At least from my viewpoint. Okay, now with that cleaned up, let's mess with this leather some. So we're going to take the core color here. I have some of it over here, but we're going to need a new white. Well, the primary event listing for Historicon is not up yet. I saw a blurb on it that the convention director said he had some personal issues and probably was going to be by the end of the weekend. That's fine. Good. That means I won't bother checking it every moment. But I do want to see when it's up so I can, announce what we're going to run. I don't want to announce it beforehand and then they screw up the order that we did the games. And, really whatever order they do them in is not that big of a deal. We can adjust. But I don't want to have to correct. I like doing things right the first time. And can't always do that if you got to correct things. So hopefully they don't screw it up. We put a lot of thought into what we're doing when, and enough shopping time between sessions. Because a lot of sessions, what they'll do is they'll give you a nice big break between game sessions, and they'll do it at a time that the vendor hall's not open. And so what we did is we went from 9 to 1, which is a normal 4-hour session. We don't start again until 2:30. So you got an hour and a half to eat or whatever you want to do. And then it's 2:30 to 6:30. And then it doesn't start back up until 8. So there won't be any shopping you can do between 6:30 and 8 because the vendor hall closes at 6. But at least you have an hour and a half between the first and second session. So there's no point in having a big gap after the vendor hall's closed. Hey, we shop too, or look around. So our convention in Florida can't do that. It has strict restrictions on when a event starts and when it ends. You can choose to run your event for a couple of sessions, but I don't know if I want to mess with this color because I just realized, you guys can't see it, but this area around here, I'll be damned if that doesn't look like real leather. I don't know. Maybe see. Will this make it better or worse if I mess with this? Let's see. I'm going to leave it alone. I'll lighten up the other wood. might leave that alone too. Well, we do need to paint the little basket thing. Yeah, and I took some white glue, even though I don't like white glue, to stiffen this up several times. But these lines are incorrigible, and there's actually 8 lines. I might cut them down some, but they just get tucked underneath here. And I needed to build it in parts like this so that I could do the ground basing underneath it. Well, that just tucks in underneath here, and that just sits up like so. And I wish there was a way that this thing could have been inside the definition of the stand, but there's no way really to do that. I think I'm actually not going to glue this down because I may be in a situation where stands are behind it, and if it's glued down, I'm going to end up breaking this thing. So this at least allows me to, you know, adjust where things are. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to glue that down. Now that I think about it, because that allows me to fit it in a little bit better. I'll glue this, but I won't glue, well, maybe I won't glue any of it. Who knows? It's not like it's something that gets thrown around all the time. It doesn't weigh anything, so it's kind of cool that it can't really damage itself. All right, let's paint this little basket in the rock. Yeah. Balsa wood is even lighter than this, which means I really can't use these alligator clamps on it. It would just it'd be crushed in two. Let's see. The Union sets break time for the artillery crew and camp followers. Oh, there's no Union in the Byzantine army. They're all serfs. He started painting 1/72 scale miniatures back in the mid-90s with enamels. Was fun, actually. I used testers. Started in the 80s, and man, I did a lot of air fixed in the 70s. Wish I'd kept $10 up. We got around 30 or 40 pence back then. Never built an airfix kit. I did. They were called MPC kits here in the States. They're rebranded with better art. You may not like doing this, but try super glue. I did. That's how the little wood things are stuck together. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with model building. I just want to use them for something. I don't want them just to sit there and look at them, because I've been through that phase in my life, and it's extremely unsatisfying for me. I don't really want to go back to it. Green gray looks good, and the rock is going to be more slate gray looking. I could have made it bigger and put like ammunition and stuff on there, like a little flag or something, but you know, I want to keep the stand to a 40 by 40. It makes life a lot easier. It makes life a lot easier. I have to explain. How come yours isn't the standard size? God damn it, for the 50th time, I had to make it bigger because I wanted a diorama. I have to explain stuff at work to people all the time, and they don't listen, and you have to keep repeating it. So I don't want to bring any of that in my personal life. Ooh, I think I found a way to cheat. I'm going to paint all of this color. Then I'll go back and paint the rock a little different. Now, this green thing may actually break off in the process of me painting it. It is really flimsy on there. So we'll see. If not, we'll just craft another one. I'm in my infancy of using green stuff. I think it's pretty cool. I don't like that you have to wait a fair amount of time before you can do anything with it, because I don't like to hop around from one thing to another. I like to, once I start something, finish that thing I started. And I would have been perfectly happy buying a white metal, to use the correct terminology, version of this. But I didn't want to wait for it to come in. And I honestly wanted a challenge of building something out of sticks. I think it worked out pretty well. I didn't want to get it on camera because I really didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of figuring things out, so. Now if I did it again, I'd probably do it on camera, but. I like doing it on camera because it keeps me on track, but. There we go. I'm like, where did that go? Got to be real careful when you're twisting this around in your hand that you don't put too much pressure because it really doesn't weigh anything. This is like almost like I'm painting origami. That's how much it weighs. It might even weigh less than that. So I was talking the other night about watching episodes of, what's that thing on Netflix, Love, Death, Robots, and a couple episodes. The recurring theme they have, and I haven't seen all of them, but the recurring theme they have is the machines take over and humanity dies off. And I don't really like that theme. I'm very pro-human. I don't want... I just think it's extremely morbid to contemplate humanity being eliminated. And I'm perfectly willing to fight to stop that. But yeah, I don't really like that theme. It's almost kind of like watching one of those horror movies, which I don't watch. They always seem to have the pretty girls get maimed, and I don't like that. It just doesn't settle well with me. And I sometimes look at those films and like, are they being produced by people who are just like ashamed of being a human? And I'm like, I mean, yeah, humanity. There's people that suck, and humans can be bad for the environment. But man, if any other creature took over, they'd be worse. Just imagine if like the lizards took over. They wouldn't treat pet humans as well as humans treat other pets. Like, you're yummy. All right. Needs a little bit of some white highlighting. White. Huwite. White. Heading off, taking your son to see the new Top Gun film. I heard good things about it. But that doesn't mean I'll like it. We'll see. Hopefully he's seen the old one first. Got to watch them in order. You're done nearly building a 1/35th scale King Tiger. I need to decide if I will build a Panther G late or 1/48th Heinkel 111. I never liked 1/48 scale for anything. I like 35th scale, obviously, and I like 72. The in between stuff, I never cared for 48. I never cared for 48. And speaking of 48, there's a big controversy. Well, I'm looking at it from the outside between, if you play 28 millimeter, what do? You use 148 scale tanks or you use 156 scale? And it seems like there's a big controversy between that. But I was never a fan of 148. Just like I'm not a fan of 144th. But ultimately, I guess it doesn't matter as long as you build one of the two so you can lay down your planes next to each other and they're in scale with each other, right? 148th Heinkel 111 is pretty big. We actually had one back in the day that flew into our local airport here. It was flying around with a B-17. And I went to lunch and decided to go down to the airport to see it. And, just from the other side of the fence because I had limited time and stuff like that. I'm not sure if they were showing them or they were just flying around where you could actually fly in them if you paid them or whatever, what have you. This must have been mid 90s probably. And it was really weird to see a swastika that big on a plane. I wouldn't want to fly in it. That's just bad. That's just bad vibes right there. And then I found out later that it ended up crashing or whatever. But yeah, it was weird seeing a swastika that big. It's not in a museum. It's like at an airport or something like that. Okay, I think we're gonna go with that, and we're gonna get a little rock. Little rock. You don't want that falling on you. You 135th scale armored vehicles, 48th aircraft. I built a few 350 ships. Those are huge. And at the time, they didn't have very many of them. I guess other different. I guess Trumpeter makes some or whatever as well. Tamiya used to be the only ones that made them at the time. Last one was ruined because of extensive photo etch. I'm just not a fan of. Yeah. The problem with the photo etch, I would be like, how do you glue it down? Well, you got to use super glue. I've never used photo etch at all on anything. So I would be afraid of cutting it and then like the burrs and stuff on it, having to take that down. Last aircraft we built, 148 scale B-17G. As far as I can remember, is the only 148 kit I ever bought. Yeah, I've never built a 48 scale aircraft. I've looked at them. Makes sense. If you're going to stick to something, just stick to. I just grew up with the 172nd scale stuff, so. Remember Matchbox? The Matchbox kits, they'd come in like multiple colors, and those were great as a kid because you didn't have to paint them all of a sudden. Well, yeah, you did, but they looked better unpainted because there were different colors. Somebody gave me a what's the British aerobatic team? Is it the Red Arrows? I think there's some Red Arrows I think it was an Alpha Jet and the Red Arrows. Maybe it wasn't an Alpha Jet. It was something like that, like a trainer. And I remember when you're a kid, you're like, oh, what kind of warplane is this? It's not a warplane at all. It's just it's just a training thing. I guess this is dead. Well, it'll still work good enough. Red Arrows, I think is what it's called. Man, the Matchbox vehicles are really, some of them are really small. I got some of them laying around here. I somehow picked up a collection of SDKFZ 251s of different manufacturer one. Like I got an Eschi one. I got a Fujimi. Well, the Eschi's in 72nd scale with that stupid copy that they made, that 251C with the damn rivets on it. I hate that kit. The Tamiya 135th scale used that one as well back in the day, and the Eschi kit also used that one back in the day. And the reason I hate it is, first of all, if you look at any kind of photographs that you have on 251s, 251/1s in particular, none of them have those damn rivets. Apparently it was kind of a fluke thing that they did at one factory, and it's not the common thing. But because they captured one and they took all the measurements and made copies of kits from them, is what I understand. That's why that ended up becoming a popular thing. But I've got the Eschi 251, which is 1/72nd scale. It's pretty big. I got a Fujimi 76 that I never finished. It's very, very. No, I did finish that one. That one's okay. And I got a Matchbox, which is actually an A model or a B. It's an early war one. And it looks extremely small. It's like green and brown. Strange. I got a couple of resin ones that look like shit. Just the casting looks like shit. If I get back into World War II, we'll paint some more of those. I still love my... I still love all my World War II kits. I'm not getting rid of them, you know. And... but I got several of those, and I'm actually really excited to build some of those plastic. What is it? The Plastic Model Company or whatever. The ones that come almost pre-built, because I want to paint stuff more than I do assemble them. I figure anybody can assemble them. I know I'm wrong, but you know, Ray Arrows use the Nat. That's the one that's the plane, the Nat. Yeah, which is tiny. It's actually a good-looking little plane. It's just, you know, tiny. Yeah. I was working on the trumpeter, 1/7 HMS hood, and the photo etch I got just killed it for me. Yeah. I can't build a trumpeter kit. They're made you know where. When I got in model building, trumpeter didn't exist yet. Or they didn't come to the States. They didn't come to the States. They weren't here yet. All right. I'm going to leave this leather how it is. We need to do a little bit more on the rock. Just maybe one little color more. Wherever the hell I left the color at. I distract easy. I was listening to I don't want to announce anything on it yet because I'm not complete with it. But so far, it looks exceptionally good. Was this YouTube video by this guy, and I don't remember what his name is because he has a really complicated name. But he did kind of, I don't know if you've ever seen these things, and a couple of different guys do this. They'll rate people on a scale of A through F. And this guy did a video where he was rating all the successor generals. Some that I've never heard of. And it was really interesting because I have a pretty good understanding of who is what and at what time period in their interaction. And it was really interesting to get those details because that is definitely a period that, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, that I'll probably be working on in the near future. Is we're going to do some successor stuff. Only because, well, one of the reasons, well, they're very cool. We're going to do some historical battles with that stuff. So, not just this guy versus this guy, but, you know, the battle of so-and-so. And I'll spill the beans a little bit. I'm going to probably work on that in the near future. Probably the next project. That's what it looks like. Because I don't have to buy any stuff to do it. And my Ptolemaics have just been languishing. I need to build 3 stands for them. They'll be 3.0 compatible. You're about to watch some DBA when this stream popped up. Welcome, Harvey. Yeah. But anyways, this guy is, when I'm done with it, I will do a post about this particular guy who is, it seems to be really freaking good so far. And all right, I think this is about dead. This was the flat earth. So we'll take the flat earth. We don't have to tinker with this too much more. And then we'll start working on some Normans. Or as they like to call them in the UK, the bad guys. Oh, man. I don't have a problem with Normans. My people have never been raped by a Norman that I know of. Now, I've painted some. They're in my feudal Spanish army, which is the same time period. Nasal helms. Nasal helms look pretty cool. Uh-huh. It's funny. I know I've already painted this color on it, but just putting it on again and maybe doing it a little bit thicker than I did last time so it's not as watered down. I don't know how the hell the crew's going to move this thing for only 2 pips. This looks like it'd take like 14. Sorry, we need 14 pips. Well, how am I going to do that? Well, you can't save them from previous turns. So basically you're telling me you can't move it. Right. You have to burn it in place and then build a new one at the new place it's going to. But hey, the original one did not have wheels, so I'm not going to put wheels on this thing. You're back. Didn't know you left. Next time I go to Renaissance Fair, I will go dressed up as a Norman and she'll be called Norman the Norman. See, that's the thing about Renaissance Fair. There shouldn't be any Normans at a Renaissance Fair. Think about it. Renaissance should be, 1450s. Ours here is called, the one we have in town is called Hogtown, because apparently this place was called Hogtown at some point. I don't know. Maybe, in the 1820s or some shit like that, But anyway, it's called Hogtown Medieval Fair. So that one is okay. You can do medieval stuff. If you're going to go to a Renaissance fair dressed as a Norman, then I'm going to go to a medieval fair dressed as a Roman. There, we'll balance things out. I'm not playing dress up. But that would be a good name, Norman the Norman. Norman the Norman. And people in the UK have explained to me why they, why they consider them the bad guys. I'm looking at it from the outside. I'll take their word for it. You know, I always gravitate towards the side that has the cooler equipment or look. And for the time period, I think the Normans were pretty cool looking. Regardless of whether or not they were rat bastards. In England, the bad guys are the Scots. Well, they're certainly not the well-dressed ones. Another good name of that, Eric the Red's little known brother. Eric the Well-Read. Interesting. Pillager of libraries. Got a better idea. How about we both go affairs dressed as pirates? I don't know why people, is it worldwide or people in the U.S. have a fetish for pirates? I always think the pirates are the bad guys. But then my people had to fight them more than they used them to help them. So, the pirates are the thieves stealing from my people that were the original thieves. Yeah, people have a fetish for pirates. Best thing about being dressed as a pirate is coming up with a name for your character. Because that just writes itself. I mean, there's no end to that. That just writes itself. The most I've done with a Pirates theme anything was that damn Assassin's Creed game. What is it, Black Flag or something like that? I played that quite a bit. That was pretty cool. But that's, about exploring stuff, and those games are cool and silly in their own way. But I think the storyline behind them all is silly, but they're cool because they're like, hey, I wonder what's up on that hill. We'll go climb your ass up there and find out. I like open world stuff. But then I like to explore things. Wow. Didn't even hit the ground. Just a weigh anything. There we go. This is what we need to do. We needed to lighten this up more. So the leather was right where it needed to be. Dun, 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 dun. Stealing from a thief isn't stealing. I have to think up a good pirate name, but my ship be called the Maelstrom. Plus, Tony, if the Spanish didn't want their ships captured by pirates, they shouldn't have filled their hulls with pilfered treasure. I call it karmic payback for the destruction of the Americas. I don't know. I think that should have happened sooner than it did. I call it liberation. They did awful things, but awful things were being done over there. So, have you tried Kingdom Come Deliverance? It's a first-person open-world game set in 15th century Bohemia. The developer went all in on historicity. Oh, Kingdom Come Deliverance. Is it computer only? I'll check it out. Hey, it's worth watching the video. That reminds me of that theme. That's actually a good place for it to be. There's that game a long time ago made by Microprose called Darklands, and that's basically what it is. It's in the Holy Roman Empire in that time period. Kingdom Come Deliverance. All right, we'll watch a video on that this weekend. Okay, we lighten this up, but we didn't lighten up the sticks on this. Do we even need to? Nah, it'll be all right. Boy, these things are incorrigible. Good thing I didn't pay good money for this. We're going to leave this as is for the time being. We may tinker with it later. But that's pretty close. All right, it's already got like 3 layers of glue on these things. I thought about cutting them down a little bit smaller, and I may end up cutting the ends down so they don't wrap as much. But hey, not bad for being made out of garbage. And it needs a couple little grasses and stuff like that on there. But for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. You compare it by putting some folks that are on the same team next to it. It's on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. I like things on Xbox One. Because the consoles are better in my opinion because everybody that's playing it has the same hardware. I've bought games before where they've never worked well, ever, on a computer. So, the hell was that? Don't start with me. I come down on there. Okay. Move it the opposite way you want it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is the artillery piece. We'll come and glue a little wood, well, there's not going to be very much of it left. I didn't leave much footprint. Well, I really couldn't. So, that's the artillery piece. Anyhow, let's put that away. Let's do some Normans. All right, we got 6 Norman figures, and these are old school Norman figures. Whenever I paint some, whenever I get around to painting my Athenians or my Thebans or whatever, I'm gonna go in Assassin's Creed, what's it called, Odyssey, and take some screenshots because that game's just gorgeous. Now, yeah, it's not historically accurate, but there's a lot of inspiration there. I mean, a lot. And let's pull these Normans out. And those games don't take the place of doing this, but they're inspirational. It's fun to, for a little while. All right. We got several of the same pose. So we got this overhand dude, a couched lance. This guy, it's got the beard. I don't know if I'm going to keep him. This guy belongs like in my Scottish, my pre-feudal Scots. So I may save him for that guy. Another couched guy, another overhand, and this guy is just kind of just chilling. All right, so let's do one of these overhand ones because I've never done an overhand Norman. This guy's got pants on. That's kind of odd. This guy has pants on too. Normans didn't wear pants. Okay, this guy's got the little strappy things. What kind of shoes does he have? All right, we'll do it anyways. Doesn't matter. These guys are... You don't have official Norman wear. Whatever. I like these horses. I think they'll paint up well. All right. And no, I don't know what emblems I'm going to do, but that's, of course, the fun part. Norman horse. When in doubt, start off with a brown one. Almost need to switch this out. Let's do that. There are 3 horses per stand. Okay, this is a work of art that's going to go in the garbage, which is better than some museums. I realize why some of the art in museums looks the way it does. It's donated. Well, I wouldn't want that in my house either. I'll be right back. Let me go add some more water to this. That's pretty darn wet. I think that was the last. I think that was the last sheet in the original one that came in my original packet, so it lasted like 3 years. Where is X-Acto knife? All right, well, of course, we're going to have black and white in the middle. I don't care what you use. You end up wasting so much more paint than you ever use. Boy, this thing needs a cleaning. All right, we'll leave that for a rainy day. We don't want to use that brush. That one has proven itself to be very useful. As a matter of fact, we're going to take these two and we're going to go hide them. That one too. Need to use brushes I don't have as much confidence in for this kind of stuff. Okay. Let's do a little bit of black touch up here on this. There's a piece of flash that got left on there. So Nordic, what history are you not interested in? Like, what is a period you would never do anything in? Because not everything is just as interesting as everything else. I tend to not like the periods where everybody's kind of looks the same. So I'm not a big fan of 17 and 1800 stuff. And yes, they look different and they're little uniforms, but they had the same kind of stuff for the most part. And I mean, I won't play it. It's just not something I'm really interested in. Sailing ships when they all look the same, boring. That's probably the worst thing, honestly, for me. I'm not going to build Napoleonic sailing ships. I've played wooden ships in Iron Man. It's a fine game, but I'm not really interested in painting all ships that look almost identical. And sailing ships would probably be the worst. Now that I think about it, that'd be worse than painting American Civil War stuff. For me, I've played sailing ship games and I hate them. There's not enough to. Well, I said wooden ships and Iron Men was okay, but some of the other ones I've played are just boring. I think Ironclads is cool. I just don't care for American Civil War, but I think the concept is cool. They look wacky. Wacky is not practical, but it's good for creative painting. We don't care about practicality when we're painting stuff. We just want it to be interesting and fun. Spanish conquest of the New World. I'm not interested in wargaming the conquest of Aztecs and Incas. I've been doing games wrong in piracy in the Spanish Main. Yeah, see, I'd be the opposite. I would definitely do. I played man, you have to paint a lot of Aztecs. Aztecs would be cool to paint. The problem is I know two people that already have an Aztec army. But that'd be a pretty cool challenge. I played a skirmish game that was. There's a game out there that the guys do that they've teased me with the fact that it's a pirate game right now. It's a skirmish game, and they've teased me with the fact that they may do conquistadors, and I'm like, I don't know if I could resist doing that, but I probably can because I wouldn't do 28s. I'm not painting 28s, so I would do sailing ships in the 1500s. I just wouldn't do them in 17s. They all look the same, you know. Now, I do have that little collectible Pirates game. What is it? Pirates of the Spanish Main or whatever. A little plastic game that came out in the early 2000s. I got the whole first season of all those ships. And those actually, that's a good looking little game. The rules suck. The rules are just absurdly simple. Like there's no wind or anything. But the purpose of that game was just to get people to buy more shit. And the collectors saying like, "Oh, we'll only buy 5 packs and see what I get." I'm like, I just wanted the whole set. So, but that would be okay. But you'd need a lot of terrain. You'd need a lot of troops for the conquistador stuff. Yeah, see, I think that's pretty interesting, but it depends what your background is. That's not your people. I get it. Like, I'm not interested in Dark Ages England at all because there's no Dark Ages England in me that I know of. And it probably is. We're all mutts, right? But it's a time period. Like every time I hear Arthur, I'm like, oh, please, cry me a freaking river, you know? Don't you have any other better stories? Oh, this is another flat Earth. Oh, this is the old one. All right, let's use flat Earth. This is a middle of the road brown here. If you had to make a list, I take it this is a list of stuff you're not interested in. Spanish conquest, Aztecs and Incas, pretty easy to avoid. Mexican-American War, real easy to avoid. Spanish-American War, nobody does that. And the mid to late 1800s European wars, Marlborough period, 30 Years' War. You don't like Italian wars? Shame on you. Hey, it's not for everybody. A lot of it is, what your background. I don't have any ancestors that were on this continent during the American Civil War. I can say that. I'm not even going to say that I know of. I'm going to say I don't have anybody there. So right there, that appeal is gone for me. So some of you guys are like, I had both people on both sides. Not me. We were over in the old world, So there's none of the appeal of that. Mexican-American War, it just seems like it would be really one-sided. So that right there is like not appealing at all. And I don't like American history. The only American history I could get into, the only conflicts that I can think I could get into that happen on this continent would be AWI. I could see doing that. Maybe. But you've got British, you've got Hessians, you've got the colonial army, you've got colonial volunteers, you got French, you got you've got some different stuff that could be interesting for me. War of 1812, who cares? Mexican-American War. I still think one thing would be really cool would be to do Victorian what if? A Victorian World War. They just don't make all that. You could fudge the figures, but I think that would be really cool. So like the sword and the flame, but all the nations, all the European nations and all the natives from all kinds of different places. I think that would be a really, really neat environment. And changing sides. So in one game, the French would be helping the British, and the other one, they were arch enemies. And I think that would be a really good background. Don't get me wrong, I would like to paint Lanchneck, but I can't get into religious wars history. Oh, that was just an excuse. That was just an excuse to kill each other. Hey, that's why they make all kinds of periods. It's a good thing I don't want to do Napoleonics, because frickin' Mitch and Joel have them all. That'd be really annoying. I want to get into a period and every single thing's already been done. Yeah, we played a skirmish game. Me and a buddy of mine. We were playing conquistadors, and we were outnumbered like 1,000,000 to 1, and we had to do a fighting retreat onto a temple. It was pretty interesting. It was 28 millimeter. That was a long time ago. That must have been 2003 or something like that. That's the only one of those games I've played. It just takes somebody painting a hell of a lot of natives. A lot. Which, you can go hog wild with. There's all kinds of different ways you could paint them with all the codexes and stuff that were done for them. I'd be okay gaming that. I just wouldn't want to do it in DBA. I think DBA is just not really appropriate for it. Make it kind of boring. I had all these brushes that were pretty good, and then I cleaned them and just threw them back in here. So it's a little bit of find. Crimean War was sort of a Victorian era world war. Yeah, I guess so. Late Victorian. Like, you could have warships, battleship, pre-dreadnought type stuff. Because Crimean War was Ironclad warships. Really close. Because what was the first one? Glory and Warrior, right? And they were 1860. I was reading about that the other day. I glanced at it. Battle of Inkerman. Somehow I thought about it. I'm like, I'm going to go on Wikipedia and read a little bit about it. I read very little about the Crimean War. Just kind of a forgotten thing that... I guess the Russians were incompetent in that period too. So here's a question. During what period of time were the Russians the most competent? Against their, neighbors. Probably be World War II. It wasn't during that period. I think they were okay during the Napoleonic period. It's apparently certainly not now. I don't know. I shouldn't comment on that. I'm not watching any of the footage. U.S. Modern was the first ironclad warship launched in 1862. Yeah, but there's other ships that had iron on them before. Glory, I think, was the first one. And it predates that. Yeah, the Glory built one, and then the British built the Warrior, which... Is the Warrior still around? I want to say it is. I don't know why I think that it's up in a museum somewhere. The Warrior was a huge ship, like lengthwise. That's like almost 500 feet long. It was it was the longest ship until damn near World War One, damn near until Dreadnought. Maybe not displacement wise, but lengthwise. And the only reason I know that is because I've got that book that I did the book review on. And one of the cool things about it is it had this profile, and it would compare everything to either the Warrior or the Dreadnought. So it would describe this ship, and there'd be a little drawing, and it would have a silhouette where it was behind, that's really a unique thing now that I think about it, that they would have done something like that. But every single ship was compared in profile to either the Warrior or the Dreadnought, depending on what period it was. So you could kind of get at a glance, understand how big the ship actually was. And Warrior was just like, nothing's ever longer than the Warrior until like damn near 1900. Really pretty amazing. And you know, and the Warrior is basically a ship of the line that's just ironclad. So you've got iron on the outside of the ship. It still has muzzle loading guns. I think they're all muzzle loaders. I'm sure at some point they modified it to breech loading just for speed. Glory was launched. The Russians were probably the most competent during the Napoleonic period. World War II, they just had numbers and disregard for life. They had good weapons and stuff. You know. Yeah, Napoleonics, huh? What about, what's that war they fought with Sweden and the Poles? They were okay back then too, right? Or they had just as many peasants as their neighbors? Peter the Great? They were okay during Mongol times. They got their ass kicked just like everybody else. God, I don't like the Mongols. There's your bad guys. I don't like the Mongols. Still paint them. At some point I'll have a Mongol army. Somebody just released a bunch of Mongol figures. I want to say it was Lurkio. Man, there's a lot of Mongol manufacturers. Have to save the Mongol army when I'm writing my own rules, so we can make them fight Mongoly. You know. Warrior's a museum ship at Portsmouth, so she still is around, yeah. She's like the longest freaking ship for damn near 50 years. Crazy. Just crazy. All right, so what museum ships do they have in the UK? Let's see if I can name them. Warrior. You guys still have Victory. You got Belfast. And that's all the ones I can think of. It's a shame they didn't keep more. They should have kept like Rodney or something like that. They should have kept one of those battleships. Those things were freaking awesome. Or Warspite. They should have kept Warspite as a museum ship. I mean, that thing was everywhere. From Windy Corner to the Mediterranean, Norway, just chug up Narvik and just blow some German destroyers at point blank range. Freaking awesome ship. You should have kept Sheffield instead of Belfast. Old Shiny. That ship was everywhere too. Mongol armies should be required to start with their elements arrayed in a giant circle. Really? Is that how they started? It must cost a ton of money to keep one of those ships afloat as a museum or what have you. And, you know, post-war, got to pay your debts, and it's not really a big priority. I get it. You know, we got a shitload of battleships that we've kept. And it's a shame because I think the English ones are a lot more interesting. They got more interesting history as far as I'm concerned. We should stop and see one on the way to Historicon. You know, if we go. We'll see. That's going to be our stop along the way. Only one you've been to is New Jersey. Yeah, which is almost not in New Jersey. Yeah, that's as big as it gets. That's a long ass ship. I think that's the longest battleship ever. It's even longer than Yamato by a few feet. Beautiful ship. Oh, look, it's a wee Norman. Oh, I can't wait to paint these Norman shields. Gonna go freaking nuts. Paint one of those crosses that's like at a weird angle. You know, it doesn't, yeah. All right. The Normans that wear pants. Strange. All right. Let's lighten this up a little bit. Actually, I like the style these horses are done in. Whoever this sculptor is, I like the style of his horses. The horses actually are very realistic looking. The figures, they've got, you know, weird type properties sometimes to their faces and stuff, but I like old school figures. And good thing, because I got enough of them. Got a lot of figures that people didn't want. Here, have these, or they're at a flea market. I'm like, I don't want these anymore. I'm like, why not? They paint up just fine. All these wonderful sculptors always get forgotten. You know, nobody knows who these guys are. And I mean, I couldn't do this. That's a lot harder than paint by numbers without numbers, which is basically what I'm doing. HMS Cavalier. Oh, that's a late one. War to destroy, preserve, immune ship, been a victory, and the Belfast. Love to go on board a wooden ship at least once. All right. It's that time. It's Chainmail 30. Yeah, Cavalier's late. Very late. That's like they ran through the STU and Vs and like, shit, we got to start over. Let's go with the CAs. And I know because one of the manufacturers that when we used to do naval, CNC, they used to make a Cavalier class destroyer. I'm like, why would you even bother making that model? It was not, you know, there were no navies left by the time it came out. It was the Allied navies were just completely overpowered everything. That nothing left of the German Navy. Not that there was that much anyways, surface ship wise. Because after they sank Scharnhorst, well, there's stuff that happened in the channel and stuff. If you want to war, I've never seen anybody war game that stuff. I actually have a book, believe it or not. This actual book was given to me. I gotta pull this thing out because this is a crazy book. I've never read it. Naval Institute Press. And this was a book that was actually given to me by brother-in-law who liked history stuff, but he would never like anything as anal retentive as this. Last year, the Kriegsmarine, let's see which way it is. Yeah, 44 to 45. Like, talk about nothing left. Well, you got sub-actions and stuff like that, but S-boats and I think submarines would be a little bit more interesting if they had names and not numbers. Hey, look at this stuff. Approximate position of U-boats lost in the inshore campaign 44 to May 45. Yeah, old Hipper covered in shit. The Kern. I don't know. Remember, if I did naval, this might be a... It's just too much electronics by that point. Too hard to avoid too easy to avoid a night fight. But I have this kind of a strange topic for something else. Now, speaking of pirates, I do have 2 books on pirates, but they're not the pirates that what's-his-face cares about. Nordic cares about. I've got Graf Spee's Raiders and the Kaiser's Pirates. And I think I've read them both on Audible. Those are freaking great books. Just the Dresden alone. Popping in and out of Tierra del Fuego, and that's just crazy. That just writes itself. I've chainmail 22. Actually, your clock is a bit fast. Why not know that I had not derailed a painting session with World War II this time? It's in my blood, man. It's in my blood. You gotta believe me now. I've gone into that rabbit hole so many times. That was the first period I really got into. It was just an awesome period. Well, you know, it's an interesting period. It's not awesome. You know, war isn't awesome, but the Germans just make really good villains. 20th century Germans just make really good villains. Or I should say mid 20th century Germans make really good villains. There. I don't consider the World War I Germans villains. Sorry, folks, in the UK, I don't. All right. Well, that turned out nicely. F it, let's just do all the chainmail now. I've already got this brush kind of destroyed by this. I might as well. Oh, this guy's got chainmail on his cough. He's got a cough chainmail. Why that's not called a coif, I'll never know. Okay. I got kicked in the coif. We used to do a lot of naval. That's all we did. And the resources that are available now as opposed to what we had back then is just... I remember just taking a bike ride to the University of Florida Library and like researching books and find out what ammo type different ships were, different caliber guns were made for, you know, stuff to add into the game, and all in the late 80s. Good times. And my favorite theater was always the Mediterranean. Well, I like to track down the German surface raider type thing too, but the Mediterranean, you know, they were actually fighting another country that had a fleet. The Brits were fighting in a country that had another fleet, so you had opportunity for large engagements as well, you know. Dun, 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 dun. Great rabbit hole to find yourself in. First period history I got into a kid was American Civil War, and then AWI. World War I cruiser Caroline is a museum ship in Belfast. I didn't know that. C-class. I should paint the spearheads while I'm at it. Hey, that's too far. Well, that's not dry brushing. That's why I didn't do it. That's the only reason I didn't do it. All right, back to our dude. Back to Norman the Norman. Let's not do his saddlecloth yet. Pants. Normans with pants? Normans didn't wear no freaking pants. Well, you know, they didn't wear them past their... They had the little strappy things. Those, like, Viking type things. All right. I gotta do some quick... I don't think I got a book on it. It is not difficult to find stuff. There's fewer things you can find. There's fewer things easier to find than Norman. Idea for Normans. I'm just gonna go 28 millimeter Normans and see what we get. Images. Well, these aren't big enough. And you can say whatever the hell you want about the Normans, but there's some interesting freaking Norman characters. Bobby Guiscard and Beaumont, for starters. Those two guys were freaking badasses. Oh, that wasn't very useful. How about we do Norman shields? Okay. Yep. Yep. There's only a freaking bazillion things. There's one. There's a funky one. There's a funky. Does this have a center boss? It sure does. We're gonna do one of these. We'll do one of these damn yellow and green Packer color things. Yuck. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Yeah. All right, green. Let there be green. Yep, this is going to be a watery ass color, isn't it? All right, we'll leave this up, and we should be able to go back to this window. Okay, good. The Italians had some nice ships. They did. So did the French. They were beautiful. Actually, French-Italian is a good matchup. There was a couple of raids that the French actually did on Italian city ports there in 1940. Bombardment of Genoa. That was one of them. And they brought the whole fleet out with them, battle cruisers and everything. Let there be green. No green in this army. Time for it. Where's that brushes I said I wasn't going to use? This one. I can get a bigger one as I can get away with. I had a high school I went to that had Green Bay Packers colors, and that's why I hate those colors. Beaumont of Taranto is indeed an interesting character. He spends most of his life fighting Byzantines in Sicily and then agrees to serve Alexius only to be betrayed by him. Well, it was kind of mutual distrust. Yeah, definitely an interesting character. Let's do a dark base green. Let's lighten it up a little bit. And this is my first attempt of doing one of these limp crosses. It's kind of a cross, but it kind of isn't. And we're going to go ahead and use this brown as the base. Where's Where's this yellow? We'll use this yellow. Let's go ahead and pull it out and put a little dollop of it. We're going to need it here in a moment. Green and gold, meh. Yep. Yeah, and one thing you need to, I kind of have to remember about this period is this is not standard heraldry. So you could have red and blue touching each other, which is really weird. It's really weird to, whether you realize it or not, things don't look right. That's because we have that heraldry stuff stuck in your head. You know, you got to have like white and blue. You have to have a metallic color, which is a white, which represents silver, or yellow, which represents gold, in between the other non-metal colors for it to look right. And it's like, you know, whether or not you know that rule, it's kind of ingrained, at least in me. It's, you know, like that shield doesn't look right. You're like, oh, that's right. It's got no, it doesn't have a metal color. The other ones are touching. So let's see. This is swirl like that and swirl like that. Right, got it. All right, I'm gonna be off the camera a little bit. I wanna take a look at, you know, of course I can do whatever the hell I want. I just like to be inspired by reality. Okay, that goes like this. And then this goes like that. And the other one goes up. And it goes down over here. This is kind of a minimalist type shield, so it's not very noticeable. Let's make this a little bit bigger so when we lighten this up, there'll be something there to lighten. Let's extend that, make this fatter here. All right, now we'll bring the yellow in. Now we can go ahead and go back to the other screen. I don't mind green and gold. It just depends which green and which gold. And their green kind of sucks. Man, I love painting shields. I really, really do. And then just a solid green. And then we're gonna do, the metal should still be good. The center boss. And the rim. Now we'll paint that arrowhead. Arrowhead? Spearhead. Spear point. Oversized spear point. And we might as well do the helmet too while we're at it. We won't do his We won't do this guy's helmet all fancy and shit. I can reach anything that I paint, so I don't have to paint in order from the standpoint of I got to paint now or I can't reach it. Unlike building models, like I got to build this part now because once I close it up, you won't be able to get to that. It's not like that. It's just that sometimes I kind of paint things so it helps me make a decision of what other colors to have next to it, because I don't have a definite plan when I paint. I just kind of just wing it. Now, how does this guy look like next to these guys? Because they're going to be in the same army. Yeah, cool. Me likey, me likey. I want to say the yellow needs to come up a little bit. Tiny little bit. A wee bit. Oh, I got to do some scotch, just like I annoy the shit out of you guys. I'll say it again. I do accents better than most people in this country. I know that's not saying anything, but have I seen the new rules called Strength and Honor? I did. I watched a video on them. Yeah. It's very limited in period. I like that guy that does the game, Richard. Richard from the Lard guy. I think he'd be fun to play with. I forget who helps him out with the rules. He does most of the talking in that one, but I know when they play some of the other stuff, they have this one little weasel dude. I wouldn't want to play with him. The weasel dude that gets caught cheating on camera. I'm going to do some kind of a... The shirt is going to be almost like a light blue. Okay? And the pants are going to be drab. And the cuff is going to be drab. All right, let's do a light blue shirt because a little bit shows up on there. Yeah, I like the Richard guy. I think he does a really good job of explaining stuff. But yeah, I did watch the video on that. I actually wanted to experiment with For the Strongest, and then I listened to some people's reviews and said that there weren't very many meaningful decisions they had to make. And I'm like, well, I'm out. Because that's a huge part of the game. That's one thing that I like about this game as much as there's always something meaningful to do. Every turn, it's the most important thing, honestly. It's pretty amazing. Just about every bound, you've got meaningful stuff to do. So, if you're going to design rules and you want to make them better than what you're used to playing with, you got to remember what works really well in this set of rules. And pips is definitely something that really needs to stay. I think it's huge. And the interaction between both people. In other words, you have to have a system where when you attack somebody, somebody rolls something in defense. So they're involved in every combat. And make decisions that are meaningful every turn. Not, a game where your troops are on autopilot. And whether you're there or not doesn't really matter. They're going to do their thing, and you're just kind of observer. Now, you could do stuff like, for instance, like I think DBMM does, where, certain troops within a certain distance are going to have to charge at somebody, but you can spend pips to hold them back. You're still making meaningful decisions. It's okay for some autopilot things to continue. But, like Armati, I played it a couple times, but the setup is crucial. You set up guys in the wrong place, they're not going to get into the action. You can only wheel so much each turn. So if you set up incorrectly, you could have just lost the game right off the bat in the first battle, before the game even starts. Now, that's no fun. That's not a very captivating experience. At least not for me. But I don't really like games where it's like, I'm going to set up, why don't you leave for a little while? I don't like you just lose the social interaction between both people. And that's really what it's about. If you don't want to be around people, I guess that would probably work for you. But, it's a social experience for me. Like one guy was complaining in one video that, man, you guys need to stay on topic about what you're talking about. It's like, we're friends and we generally like each other. And, we don't talk to each other every day. So it is a friendly experience. So, it's a social thing. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because even though the interaction is much limited than I've had face-to-face painters, and it's a lot of fun, but very few people paint. How did the guy cheat? I haven't watched the videos for a bit. I think he said he rolled one thing and rolled something else, or rolled more dice than he was supposed to see if we can get away with it. Shady little dude. Oh, I have to find that video. It was when they were playing a couple games of Chain of Command. Yeah, he just seems shady. But then, some people are more interested in winning than others. I mean, I want to win, but it's not that big of a deal. After you've lost over 1,000 games, it doesn't really matter anymore. It's just about having interesting things happen. All right, so we want a colored cough and something like... Now, let's get a little bit different than the helmet color. Something like this would probably be okay. What? The guy chimes in. That's me. I didn't cheat, you bastard. Reminds me of a guy I played 40K who would just move things an inch, and his inch was more like 3 inches. No, that's some dishonorable shit, man. It is. I mean, why would you do that? I mean, we're all going to make errors, but why would you mindfully make it? 3 inches. Letting people get away with it. To call him out after he won and gloated. Yeah. That's some dishonorable shit right there. Your experience to the strongest that there is decisions to make early in the game while units are moving, but it tends to bog down once units are in combat and descends into a die rolling contest. So you wouldn't recommend it? I don't like the fact that it is squares. But I don't know. I like that game has a press your luck mechanism, doesn't it? Like what the game that I have played that I actually like quite a bit is Lion Rampant. It has a press your luck. In other words, Do you want to activate the guys that, once you fail an activation, it's the other guy's turn. So you try to get your guys moving that are easier to move first, or it's that kind of decisions from hell kind of thing, which are fun if your opponent has to make them as well. And I like that. I mean, we like that, and I'm going to speak for Mitch. Mitch and I like the same type of mechanisms. As long as the other person is tortured by the same things too. It's interesting when things don't go your way and you kind of try to have to make the best of the situation. Many players don't like that. They want to be in control, but games when things are a lot of things are out of your control build a really nice narrative. And are very memorable. For good and for bad reasons. For good and for bad reasons. Well, this guy does not have a whole lot of flesh showing. But I haven't gotten a chance to play to the strongest, so I don't like the idea that we have to have a special mat with squares on it to play. But I don't have it in me to read new rules. I just as soon come up with my own. I just, there's nothing out there that's going to be, perfect. It was that guy and several others at that store that really ruined 40K for me. I stopped playing after that. Well, that's the people. I mean, you play, our group, we could play anything and have a good time. And we have. We played other things and had a good time. Like games have a random unit activation draw system. I do too. You never know who will activate and at what time, so that you activate, you really have to think about what you want to do. I do too. But they run slow, but I like them. My World War II game is that way. I really like it. It's like a slow motion game, like, that kind of thing. Well, his boots are brown. The cloth that he sits on is going to be dark red. And we're going to go ahead and use dark red. We don't want it to be too bright. It's going to overpower the shield. Yeah, I do like the random thing. That's why I could never get into playing ASL again. I could never play that again. It's too structured. Like, okay, we know you're going to get a chance to shoot every one of your guys that's in good order. I'm like, what if they don't get a chance? I don't want everything to necessarily go my way. I don't like things that are predictable. And I don't like games where you can completely build your force however the hell you want to. I think that it's a lot of fun to be tortured with having to use shit you would have never picked in the first place. Ooh, there's a little bit of it over here. I see you. I see you. This guy's paying up pretty quick. Another reason to use these old school figures. And I have them. I have a ton of them. What am I going to do? Give them away? Throw them away? I mean, if I didn't have any, I'd go buy forged and battle guys. If I didn't have any. And I do. I have tons of Normans. I actually have an Anglo-Norman army ready to... They're already put in their little bags. Ready to paint them. Just need a reason to. Just too conventional an army. And Mitch already has a Norman army, so no point in doing that. It's not like there's other armies I can't do. Not like there aren't any other armies I can't do, so. Okay, this has a hell of a leather strap across the front of this. I think we'll do that in a light color just so it pops out. Same with the reins and the same thing around the thing. I think that we need to do the face or the javelin, the spear. Ooh, the spear. There's a lot of positives to the strongest. Limited ammo, realistic Polybian legions, and the game plays quickly. Realistic Polybian legions, interesting. Well, you could set up in a checkerboard formation, right? Because the board is checkerboard. To the strongest. There's no army list for it, I think. I think that's the game that has no army list. Maybe I'm thinking of sword and spear. I don't know. I want to play a game. The next game I want to play, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'll keep beating that. I'm going to keep beating that drum. I want a game where you can contact like this and fight. None of this that you have to line up. That would take a lot of the... I mean, yeah, you got to take a lot of things into consideration, but I think it's doable. Okay, Nordic. Get you some sleep. Hope you feel better. I don't know that you're feeling bad today, but hope you have some restful sleep. I think I'm gonna go light color on these guys' spears. And we're gonna need old chocolate brown out here. That ain't it. Wow, you really hear that mixing ball big time. Flat earth. Probably use that color for his shoes. Don't think I've ever seen a Norman with black shoes. So we're not going to start on my watch. The Stormin' Normans. This one guy that I follow on YouTube went on a rant one time about the size of the horses that Normans should be riding. And he was like, they got to be ponies. They got to be ponies. I'm like, well, I'm not going to worry about that much. I'll just paint whatever the hell they come on. They look right. If they are ponies and they charge people and they're treated as regular knights, then they are really some badass guys. So I'm not going to be replacing any horses. Some of these guys, when they went in battle, were just damn near unstoppable. So seeing them on some tiny little horse is probably not going to have the desired effect of their combat ability. But then, you know, Mongols and such, Huns were on ponies as well, what would be considered ponies. But then they didn't fight in contact. So okay, now it's time to do the fleshy bits. TTS says army lists which are only available in digital form, but the author provides free updates every 3 months. Well, that's pretty frequent. I'd play it. Scott suggested he would get it and he'd run a game of it. I just don't want to buy a map that's covered in squares. You know? That's all. And I don't want to build more than 12 stands or 15 stands or something like that. I don't. It can be more than 12. I just don't want to, you know, paint 30 freaking stands of something before I can go to something different. Because the reality is I want to, I want to paint a lot of these armies, and spending that much time on one is not really my idea. I want to do more different stuff. And this army's great because I looked at it and I'm like, oh, I could do Armenians I could have Armenians for the foot. I could do Normans for the knights. You know, all kinds of interesting stuff. All kinds of varied things. Just like I drink and I know things. I drink black coffee and still yawn. I'm just to the point where I'm almost immune to the stuff. And we're going to need the fleshy color. Scunny, yeah, I still can't say it. I was about to say, I think I got it saying right. Nope, I can't. Sunny skin tone. Scunny, nope, still can't say it. Sunny skin tone. All right, not much flesh showing. Now, even though I'm not particularly interested in the period, I actually wouldn't mind painting up some more Dark Age armies, only because I wouldn't make them look generic. So it'd be a really interesting challenge to do something like, say, the Franks. Okay, and I paint the Franks, and the Franks have those silly-ass T-shirts with the horizontal stripes. They're not T-shirts, they're shirts. And you know, they look silly. And I take the opportunity to do something silly and make it look good, or make it look plausible, I should say. Let me go grab a Coke, and I will be right back in a moment. First break in 2 hours, not bad. It wasn't long. Go grab a can out of the garage, as you guys say. Garage. I didn't think I'd ever have 2 refrigerators. And when we replaced this, when we came to this, well, we had to redo the house. We ended up getting another refrigerator. So instead of getting rid of it, we just moved it to the garage. And it doesn't use much power. And it's just nice to be able to have things out there, especially if you're doing yard work or something. So you don't have to go in the house. So, how cute. And it's really invigorating to have figures that nobody cares for. And they paint up just fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with these guys. Sure, they're not state of the art. They've been around for 40 years or however long. They have just enough detail to make them interesting. I still get to do the fun shields, and they paint up quick. You know, these guys probably paint up in half the time. Than a normal guy would. That a modern figure would. And I don't mind mixing them in with other manufacturers. I just decided to just put all these guys on a stand. I just don't want them all in one pose. I mean, these are figures that you don't want Normans all in one pose. You want a mixture of stuff with the... I mean, they're all mercenaries. These guys are. I guess I started painting flesh, came back, and forgot that's what I was doing. Said it doesn't matter a whole lot what order I do them in. I like the freedom of being able to do that. Man, I'm really looking forward to painting another Norman. It's mainly because of the freedom I have with them. Paint them however the hell I feel like. I'm less restrictive on their than other stuff. I'm even going to try one of those shields that has the zigzag. Like it's split in half, like one's like blue and one's white, and it has almost like teeth between the two. Like, and mind you, I don't like how that looks, but I want to try it. It's like jagged, and sometimes the jagged isn't right in the middle because the split isn't in the middle. It's like a third of the way, and I don't know. Maybe I'll like it, maybe I'll hate it. Shield challenges. Always up for shield challenges. Except for that, what's that color that supposedly represents ermine? It's a white background with like the little tough things. That just looks wrong. It just looks wrong even when it's done right. It's just like, who came up with that? I don't like that. That doesn't mean I won't try it, but it just doesn't look right. Oh, that's the wrong one. It's already got a little bit of a hook in it. What I don't like painting is figures that the detail is very subtle. It's not very pronounced. Because it's kind of a pain in the ass. It's kind of, not a kind of a pain in the ass. It is a pain in the ass. All right, this guy needs almost light colored pants. Am I okay using that one? Probably. I'm probably fine using this. Let's mix it with brown instead of the black. Normans in Byzantine service. And these could be two stands for the start of a Norman army. but unlikely. Because the basing on these guys are going to match the Byzantine basing. Basing's what ties them all in together. There's a guy who used to game with us, and he wasn't really a painter, but he would buy figures off of eBay, really, really cheap, that looked horrible. They were too brightly painted, and he would dip them all in the same stain, and he would base them all together. And honestly, they looked pretty good. Time for lunch. All right. Have one for me. It's always time for lunch. And they looked pretty good once he was done with them. That works too. The basing ties them all together and makes them look like they're all, part of a unit. And the dip was strong enough, the stain was dark enough that it would tie them all, it would make them look consistent. And he did a good job with them. Mitch has a couple of his armies. And it's kind of the guy that used to game with us for a while. And he was a lot of fun to game with. And his life's kind of in a different direction now, so he doesn't really do any gaming. But it's a shame. I really enjoyed playing with him. World War II beige camouflage. German World War II beige camouflage. Or as I like to call it, Zeltbahn. Zeltbahn base. That's what we're going to use for the strappies on this guy. And it's almost the same damn color as this one, but we'll use a different one. Just because we can. I'm like consumed by all these bottles and stuff. That one will probably work just fine for it. All right, we use black for this. Let's get some black over here. This guy's pretty close to being done. There's a guy that puts on games at one of our shows, and he does terrain and stuff like that. It's really nice looking boards and everything. But every period he does, it's just stuff I'm not interested in. Like, he's big into it, and I talked to him. I said, yeah, everything you do is American history. He's like, yeah, I really like it. I'm like, that's a shame, because I hate American history. He's a nice guy. One of these days I'll say F it and play one of his games. He's big on Mexican-American War, for instance. I don't know, the important thing when you're playing a game, though, is the meaningful decisions thing. You gotta have stuff that it makes a difference whether or not you're there. If the game's on autopilot, it's not very, engaging. If you have a game where it's like, man, I can't leave because there might be an important decision I need to make. That's a good game. You're engaged. I'm going to switch to a smaller brush for this one. He puts on some good looking games. Okay. Oh, look at that. I took the end of the brush off. Cheapo piece of shit. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna buy at least one Windsor and Newton and see what that's like at a store. Probably only one. They're so freaking expensive that, you know, I don't wanna hate it and spend $40 on two brushes kind of thing. All right, we need a scabbard, the back of the seat, a belt for him, and the hooves and hair on the horse, and this dude's done. Norman the Norman. Two of you people, welcome. Thanks for sticking around. Hanging around for background noise while you're working on your hobby. That's what I would imagine most people do. That's what I would do. I've listened to other people on a podcast, watching unboxings and stuff like that, and I like that. I like listening to someone talk. That's not, about politics or sports or arguing about shit. Where's that color I just put down? Maybe I just did it in the raw. I just used it in the raw. Let's try that. I don't watch anything sports, but there's a couple guys. I don't know what the hell their names are, and I've only caught glimpses of them because they've been on when I was traveling or something like that. You go and get, you go to some place that has like a free breakfast or whatever, and they've got the news on and stuff like that, and they got the sports channels on, whatever, and it's some half-ass bald white dude and a black guy, and they're arguing about sports all the time. And if you guys watch sports, you know exactly who I'm talking about. I can't stand stuff like that where people just never see eye to eye and all they do is argue about shit. And nobody's going to convince the other of their opinion. It's like, why do you even bother doing this? I'm not into arguing. I don't need to convert anybody to my way of thinking. I'm fine if people think a different way. We don't have to be enemies. Don't have to agree with each other's opinion, but although I do like comedians that get angry. But that's all one-sided, It's not like it's two guys arguing with each other. And it's not because I don't like confrontation. It's just, I don't like, that's a waste of my time. Arguing with somebody and getting nowhere. Go be a lawyer. I put this color down and it's like none of it came out. What did was very watery. This is an old color. I must have gotten it when it was already old, sitting on the shelf a while. And hell, these colors are 20 years old. A lot of them. A lot of these ones that aren't used very much. They've been in his bottle for 20 years. And they still work just fine. This is going to be the color for the scabbard. It's still early. I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to paint his saddle the same color. I'm not lazy. I'm just thrifty with my time. All right, one of them, and we're going to call it the scabbard. I'm going to go ahead and add white to it right now. I'm just going to say, hey, this is the final color. I'm just going to lighten it up right now. And the other one, the saddle, we're going to add more of the core color, make it a little bit redder, and then bring it up. So it's going to look like there's two different colors that I used, even though there's only one. Tricky, tricky. All right, let's now go back to this same core color, which was this with the black. With the black. That's where we're the point where we painted the saddle. So let's add more of the core to it. And add a little bit more to the core color. And then highlight this. And a little bit more highlight. And then the saddle and the scabbard look like two totally different colors, and they were the same core color that was used. Just brought it up to two different levels. Okay, we've got the horsehair and the hooves. And this Norman is done. Guess I'm getting quicker at painting after all. That's a good thing. I don't need to paint even slower. That's how you don't get a lot of stuff done. Slow down your painting. I don't have that many opportunities to paint as much as I used to. Chocolate brown and black for this. Just lighten it up from there. No point in adding more brown. I mean, you can, but... Oh, hold on 1 second. Okay, we're back. See if we can put the final touches on this guy. Although this brush has already got, I don't think it's split as much as it's got some goop on the end. Let's see if we can take that little bit off. Stuff works really pretty well for taking the paint off. Shaping, not these brushes. Once they go sideways, it's over, you know. It's over. Oh, I see purple. And it's about 8:30. That's got to be Joe. Yes, Joe 30. You need to wake up earlier, dude. Top of the morning to you. Yeah. Almost done with my first Norman. Artillery piece is done. Well, I got to put some grass on the artillery piece, some tall shrubbery. But for the most part, that's done. Yeah, that's better. Norman number 1. And actually, I can't wait to paint another one. I actually like a one-piece casting figure. I don't have to cogitate about, oh, I wonder what horse he's going to be on. Screw it, the one he comes on. Don't worry about those details. Maybe a little bit more contrast here. Screw it, just start painting. Got an 8 bow stand to do as well. We'll wait on it a little bit. That's going to take a while to do. 8 figures and only get 1 stand out of it. I think that's a mandatory too. I got to have them in every battle. And I'm pretty sure I am gonna replace the spears on those guys. Just having them spears that you know are gonna bend on you if you hold them the wrong way right off the bat is just a recipe for frustration. All right, we're gonna put socks on him. We're gonna put them on all of them. Let's just put him on the front 2, and we're gonna put a star on his forehead. So the core color for this guy is, it's got to be this color. So let's mix some of that up. Get it to the point where the darkest spot was on it. And let's paint the bottom half of this. So we can add white in from that color. That's how I like to do it anyways. Even more white. Huwite. And straight Huwite. And some hooves. Working on some calf tie. Pad Thai horse. I don't like pad thai at all. I don't mind the peanuts. I just don't want peanut butter as a base for a sauce. No thank you. That's too dessert-like for me. There's lots of people love that, including some people that I live with, but not me. I like the hot food though. Seems like a strange mix. One of the strangest mixes that I had is a restaurant outside of Universal Studios in Orlando. And it's called like the Chocolate Emporium or something like that. And they actually have bread that they bring to your table. Actually, I don't think it's free. I think you have to buy it or whatever. But it's these like rolls, and it's chocolate rolls. And it sounds really weird, but it actually works. And it sounds really weird, and especially somebody like myself who's not a chocolate fan. It actually works. They have these little rolls, almost like these little bread things, like almost like you would get like at Outback, like those little loaves, except they're like made of they're chocolate impregnated. That doesn't sound very good, but anyhow, it was an interesting concept. And it actually works. believe it or not. Because it's not sweet. I don't know exactly how they did it, but they pulled it off. They have a lot of chocolate themed things there. You got these like milkshakes or whatever, and like mason jars, and it's just like, you know, sweet with a side of sweet. Just reminds me of something that Mitch would probably love that shit. But that's just too. That's way too over the top for me. Chocolate bread, yeah. True story. Okay, Norman complete. Okay. So in typical fashion, I should be painting the same figure, same pose. Obviously, they'll be on different stands. Next. That's what we'll do. I'm actually going to take a small break, and I'll be right back, and we'll start on this guy. Okay, it's transom window time. You can see the lights just up at the top. It's going to get really annoying here shortly. A period of time only lasts like maybe 15 minutes where it comes through here, but all right. So we've got the artillery piece finished, and one Norman figure finished. Let me put my glasses on so I could see them. Oh yeah. Well, this guy is going to have red as the dominant color in his shield. So what exactly in his shield is, I do not know. I'm also going to put him on a gray horse. So other than that, nothing else has been figured. I just kind of made those arbitrary decisions just to kind of mix it up. Let's make sure we don't have any spots that are jumping out at me that need to be addressed. With different stuff before you go in and realize you got to paint a little tiny little spot inside of the backside of a shield or something. It's just annoying. You have to go back to. Okay, I think this guy's Norman, the Norman Foreman. Right in the face. All right. Great. I could just mix one, but I got all these colors. I might as well use them. London Gray. Boy, this one's separated nicely. Or maybe not so nicely. The grays tend to mix up okay. It's the things that have any green or yellow in them that just goes... They just don't mix worth a damn. Even if you're putting mixing balls in there. Somebody suggested I buy one of those mixer things. They're loud. I got to do most of my stuff pretty quietly. I don't need to have some, you know, like a freaking jackhammer in the freaking room. This works well enough that isn't that much of an issue. Oh, it's all dilute. Jeez. There we go. Mr. Dirk, welcome. Just got home after a night out. You're too old for that. I guess I should do a recap for you. All right, so what did we do this morning? Well, we finished the artillery piece. We need to put some little grass on there, but this is what it looks like. No animal skins were used in building this. You gotta get those little guys tucked underneath there, but real happy with how that turned out. And then we finished our first Norman just moments ago. Old Tabletop Games Norman dude. So now we're going to paint our next Norman because we're on a Norman tear here. We got 5 more Normans to paint for the 2 stands of the knights that they had. Then after that we have an 8 bow stand, 2 stands of light horse, which are Turks, the command post, and I believe 4 stands of cavalry. It might be 3 stands of cavalry. So the 3 stands of cavalry, the cool thing about them is the shield patterns I'm going to do, because they'll be in units of 3. So all 3 of the guys on the stand, well, they'll be on a different colored horse, but their equipment will probably, and what they're wearing is probably going to be really similar to each other. And the shields will all be the same for those 3 units. So we're going to build them in units. And we're going to mix the Elaine Tulare figures with Old Glory. That's just the Cav guys with the almond-shaped shields. So there's a bunch of them to do. And then when it's time to switch into doing the Comnenians, I don't have that much stuff to do. I mean, I've got to do a mounted commander for that. A stand of blade, a stand of spear, because I could use their Armenian spear, but I'm not going to. The scutatos they have are indigenous Byzantine equipped guys. What else? There's got to be another like Saloy or Fast Ox or something like that that they got. But oh, two stands of bowmen. I think they've got bowmen, solid bowmen, or maybe they're fast bowmen. So once I'm done with this army, I've got maybe, I'm going to say 7 stands or 8 stands to do at the most, and then I'll have another 2 armies done as well. So big Byzantine. Big Byzantine morph, or later Byzantine morph, or maybe middle Byzantine morph, because after this period, after the Comnenians, things just go really bad for them. They just, it's pretty much over. You know, they just don't know it yet. So, they get backstabbed by the Venetians, and Empire never really recovers after that. It goes down to a level where it hadn't been in many years. Although it's had its back against the wall many times, even as early as just after Heraclius, where they were surrounded by the Muslim invaders. But they were able to come back from that. But after 1204, they're pretty much hosed. Just can't deal with all the corruption and all of the invaders at the same time. They deal with one or the other, but not both. Now, with that said, some of the army lists are pretty darn interesting. Those late Byzantine army lists. A night out. Well, this is a big weekend here in the United States. Those people that have a normal schedule, meaning myself and not Mitch, is a 3-day weekend for them. So this weekend should have 3 mornings of painting. And next weekend we'll have no mornings of painting. So one extreme to the other. So as the saying goes, we'll make hay while the sun still shines. If we have an ability to paint, we're going to try to do it. But sometimes we go out of town and aren't able to do that. Let's add a little bit more gray to this. Actually, I need a little bit more substance. It's kind of thin on the pigment. There we go. Oh, shit. I got to do something before these folks leave. I will be right back. Okay. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Gray. Let there be gray. All right, so it's a long weekend. I got 5 more Normans to paint. It's reasonable that I could get these 2 stands of Normans done by the weekend. That's pretty reasonable, honestly. And then we'll probably do the Turks. That's 2 stands of light cavalry, all in the same pose. They're really little horses, which actually may be appropriate. Depending on what people's opinion is on the horse size. There's just so many contradictory opinions about that kind of stuff. These guys are really small step pony looking things, but they're museum miniatures, so, and they go all over the place. Like sometimes they make their things really small, but these are very, very small horses. That's actually a cute looking figure, you know. Anyhow, it's 4 of those guys, 4 figures of those guys to paint for 2 stands. So, oh, I know what, we don't have a fan going off. I'm about to get half of my face baked. Let's do this, and let's pick a speed of 4. Should be about right. Moving at the speed of 4. I can't imagine living someplace that doesn't have ceiling fans. I don't care what the temperature is. I need air movement. Or it's got to be really, really cold. Now, we're going to go ahead and look at this guy's shield pattern because we want a dominant red shield just to counterbalance the other one. I did want to do that jagged pattern, but I think this shield's a little too small for that. I think that one's small too. Might have to save it for one of these other ones. It may just end up looking like shit. I just figured it'd be a nice challenge to do that. It's that jagged shield, Norman shield pattern that looks like it's got teeth. And the shield is split in half, although it's not exactly, it's not split 50-50. It's split like 60-40 or 70-30. And it just looks wrong. It looks like a bad idea. I don't know what. I'm not doing a good job of selling it. Maybe I shouldn't do it after all. I just want to do it for a challenge. I don't think I'm going to do any mythological creatures on these guys, only because their shields are they're very narrow. There's just no space to work with there. All right, so I should still have this other one open. I do. Oh, that one's all over the place. That one has all kinds of stuff on there. Let's see. Here's one of those jagged ones. It's blue and white. It's the jagged. Is it big enough to do? Ooh, I like that little mythological creature. I said I wasn't going to do one of those. I could change my mind any moment. Nah, it's just not big enough to work with. It's not big enough to work with. There's just so many cool patterns for these guys. I guess at some point I should do an Anglo-Norman army, only because I've got them all separated, and I can do some of these later Norman pattern shields like that have more designs on them. Oh, there's like a basket weave type thing. All right, here's what we're going to do. We said we wanted to do a dominant red one. All right, we're going to do this one that's red and white, and it kind of has the swirls on it. So we're going to leave that open. And we're going to start off with painting the whole thing an off-white color. And if you're going to repaint something, repainting a shield isn't a bad choice because it's fixed pretty quick. So we're going to paint the whole thing in this gray color, which is almost really similar to the horse color. Let's just do the whole thing. We're going to leave that little gap between the rim and actual shield face. And the red we're going to pull out is not the same as we use for the Byzantine flag. We're going to use the one that's a little bit more scarlet. It's a little bit more orangish. Man, I love painting shields. I don't say that enough. It's true. Me likey. Okay, and this one has a big, it's got three. It's got three things. So, and this guy will not be on the stand of the other guy. So the fact that I'm doing two swirls in a row is just fine, because they're going to be on two different stands. So, and they're going to be in two different positions. So like if this guy's in the center position on one stand, he won't be on the center position on the other one. So we're going to do this. I actually may need to go to a thinner brush. Unless this was the thinner brush. It may have been. It's already getting a stupid little curl at the end. All right. We got a swirl that starts here, goes to the edge, and fills in the whole bottom. So we come in here, and it's something like this. Okay, the next one kind of takes up this whole top section. And then the other one is like that. And like like this. All right, so let's go ahead and fill these things in. Okay, and it kind of looks oblong and stuff like this. Let's go fill the rest of the red in. Let's bring it up. I can go ahead and lose the screen now. Go back to the standard screen. Bring it up again. Use the pure color. And a tiny little bit of white for contrast. No need to use yellow. Okay, now we do the same thing with the white. Well, need more contrast than that if you want anybody to see that difference. There we go.